Hi, everyone, and welcome to PAYDIRT, a Penn State football show. Along with former Penn State and NFL quarterback Matt McGloin, I'm Tom Hannafin. This show is brought to you by our sponsors, Funk Brewing, the official craft beer partner of PAYDIRT. We're big fans of Funk Citrus IPA and Silent Disco IPA. This month, keep an eye out for the Raspberry Bikes Shandy and the Project Haze 6 Imperial IPA. But don't forget our official beer. The PAYDIRT IPA is available right now in Funk's tap rooms. Funk has so many great beers to choose from at their tap rooms in Emmaus, Elizabethtown, and York in Pennsylvania. You can find a variety of Funk Brewing beers at your favorite beer distributor and grocery store. Visit funkbrewing.com to learn where and how you can get their fantastic products. Must be 21 years or older to purchase. Please drink responsibly. Also, BetOnline remains your number one source for all your football betting needs this season. You'll find the latest odds, matchup info, player news, and game trends as your continued source for all sports wagering info. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, live scores, and giveaways all season long. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports and events like Major League Baseball, MMA, tennis, boxing, and even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 100% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your rewards. PAYDIRT is presented by BetOnline, where the game starts. Also, we invite you to head to shop.believe.com, that's shop.beleav.com, and search PAYDIRT for our two t-shirts. One is the official show logo over the heart. It comes in white, navy blue, and black, and the other is a navy blue t-shirt. It has the PAYDIRT word mark over the heart, and on the back, circa the 2012 Penn State football season, it has Matt McGloin's name and number. It's very fitting as this season of Nittany Lion football marks the 10-year anniversary of that team. Again, head to shop.believe.com. That's shop.beleav.com and search PAYDIRT for our two t-shirts. And I want to thank you all for tuning in on ESPN Radio State College, as well as checking out the podcast version of this show presented by the Believe Network, which is available now on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and wherever else you get your podcasts. And of course, hit us up on Twitter and let us know what you think of the show at ESPN Radio 1037, at McGloin QB11, and at Tom Hannafin. Matt, we finally have some football once again, thank God. The bye week has come and gone. No really earth-shattering news, except one piece of quote news that you sent me this article, and I had to laugh about it. So how did you come upon this thing from thecomeback.com?
Actually, and then of course I had to forward it to you, but it's what you called it before we started the show. It's clickbait, right? It's not, the headline makes it seem like it's more than what it is. And like, let me say this, like we knew once Pat Kraft became the athletic director, naturally Matt Rule's name would always be there, right? If
this guy's been bringing it up for months.
Right. It would always be there because of the hit that those two had at Temple. If Penn State had lost twice by, then I think you can say, yeah, I would keep a close look at Matt Rule's name here as the year goes on and the season goes on. Let's see how this thing plays out. But having done what they've done this far, they're 5-0. They're heading to Ann Arbor. If they can win this game here, just there's no chance. And I like even if they go to Ann Arbor and lose, Tom, right? I still don't think there's any chance. And there's nothing against Matt Rule. He's a fantastic football coach. But what happened over the past 2.5 seasons with the Carolina Panthers, I mean, I can see him having to take a step back for a year or so, maybe take an analyst role or maybe even take a year off. I don't know what the future holds for Matt Rule. He's a tremendous coach. He did a great job turning Temple around, did a great job turning Baylor around. But when you struggle the way he kind of struggled in the National Football League, right, it's just I don't think a lot of teams will be knocking on the door and saying, hey, we want you to be the head coach of our program or our school moving forward. I don't know. Maybe that's me.
Well, he's got $40 million in his buyout, so he can do whatever he wants. So good for Matt Rule. I love those buyout clauses.
You know what, Tom?
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt you too, but I want to make this point as well, right? He wins 5 games year 1. He wins 5 games year 2. They go 1-4 and he gets fired.
Yeah.
If he had finished the year out and he was 6, right, 5-12, they win 5 games, again, I think it's different. But to get fired only after 5 games, I think that's just kind of all right. That's again, not sure what the future holds for him. but I don't think we see his name attached to Penn State, moving forward.
No, and listen, the Pat Kraft connection is there. At the same time, I do want to point out some specifics on this article that surfaced for Penn State fans. Like, don't get caught up in this. And I also want to put a writer for thecomeback.com, Kevin Harris, on blast, because the title is College Football World Reacts to Wild Penn State Head Coach News. A, there is no Penn State head coach news. B, it's not wild. So great job. You took speculation from a Michigan Wolverines insider and prominent author named John U. Bacon, who then suggested, with Matt Rule out as Carolina Panthers head coach, keep an eye on Penn State. Rule is from State College. Penn State head coach Franklin's status has been in limbo on and off, and they have Michigan, Minnesota, OSU coming up. Penn State's new AD is Patrick Kraft, is a buddy of Rule's. Franklin might feel some heat. You know why, Pat? You know why James Franklin won't feel any heat? Because his buyout is $72 million this season. You know how long it takes for it to go down to $40 million? 4 years.
Wow.
So if you're a Penn State fan, listen, I've been very open and honest that the last 2 seasons, the last 3 seasons, really haven't been spectacular for Penn State, for James Franklin. If you're a Penn State fan or any college football fan that is hoping to see him ousted, you're insane. There is no way Penn State is going to drop $72 million to get rid of him unless the team outright loses the rest of the way. Even still, Matt, I still don't see them pulling the trigger on it.
Yeah, no, I don't. And it's not even one of those things where like that we're losing, like if you're Penn State, you're thinking to yourself, we're losing games. How do we get Matt Rule in here? How do we make that work? It's not like they need to bring somebody in to change the culture or to change the atmosphere or to change the environment, Tom, right? They are a great football program. Is there room for improvement still? Or has he done everything he possibly can? And it's, you win 10 games, you win 11 games, you struggle for a little while, you bounce back, you win 9, you win 10 games there, but you never quite get past the hump and beat Ohio State and get back to the Big Ten championship game or make a push for the college football playoff thing. Those are the question marks that are surrounding James Franklin right now.
Yeah, this is a series of comments by someone who does not know what they're talking about in an article written by somebody trying to get clicks. So just pass on that. For the record, James Franklin's buyout this year is $72 million. Next year, it's $64 million. 2024, it's $56 million. 2025, it's $48 million. 2026, $40 million. It drops by increments of 8 every year because he has a 10-year contract extension, is getting $70 million guaranteed. So everybody calm down. Let's talk about the game this weekend. This Saturday at noon on Fox, Penn State, number 10 undefeated, goes to play number 5 Michigan. The Wolverines are also undefeated. Big noon kickoff's going to be there. There are a lot of eyeballs on this game. Coming out of the bye week, Matt, how do you feel about this, from a macro perspective?
Yeah, it's a business trip. That's these coaches and these players should have had since they practiced last during the bye week. It's all about business right now, Tom. We're not going out there to, enjoy Ann Arbor or to, enjoy the stadium or, look at all the great things the house has to offer. Yes, it's going to be an incredible atmosphere, but it's a business trip at this point, Tom, right? You're not going out there thinking, we're the underdog. We got to do everything we can to upset this football team. No, you should feel like you're the favorite. You're the better team. You are the more talented team, Tom. And I've said that. I think they are. Look around the Big Ten in terms of talent. Penn State is the team that can compete with Ohio State in terms of talent. Now, game plan wise, execution, situational football, right? Under, the 4 quarters of the game and how that individual motivation can affect the outcome of the game. I think that's where Penn State teams in the Big Ten, but talent-wise, I think they're right there with Ohio State, and I think they're better than Michigan. And look, the Big House, it doesn't get better than that. It's one of the best atmospheres in football. It's one of the best venues. And for me, The reason the mentality should be that is because nothing should surprise the veterans on this team like Sean Clifford, who have already played there and won there before, right? Nothing should be, you should know how loud it's going to be, right? You shouldn't figure that out. You shouldn't have to say, let's get in there. Let's just work some of the kinks out here. Let's try to get past this crowd noise. No, you already know what it's like. You already understand it. You already know how to operate in that environment. Heck, Tom, you've already had 2 opportunities to play on the road in tough atmospheres, and you won both games. This crowd shouldn't play a factor. It's going to be loud. We know that. This crowd should not factor from snap 1 in this football game Saturday.
The one big thing that Penn State fans and college football fans as a whole are pointing at with this game is that Michigan has had a very weak schedule thus far. They opened up beating Colorado State 51-7. No shocker there. They beat Hawaii 56-10. No shocker there. They beat UConn 59-0. Our hats off to Taquan Roberson. Hope he's doing all right. Against Maryland at home, they barely won 34-27. You and I have talked about it. That's a good Maryland football team. Then 2 road games at Iowa, won by a score of 27-14. That is not a good Iowa team. And then they took care of business against the Indiana Hoosiers by a score of 31-10. Meanwhile, you just touched on it. Penn State has had 2 big road games and then 2 big, especially conference games to be tested. So when you look at what Michigan has had to deal with, are they more prepared for this game, or is Penn State more prepared for this game?
I think Penn State more prepared in this game than you mentioned that Maryland game. And yeah, Maryland's a very good football team, right? But they turned the football over 3 times. The kid took one off the face mask. Next play, Michigan scored, touchdown. Right? You can't do that and expect to win football games. It's tough to bounce back from that. It was 13-10 Maryland at one point in that game. And it was a 4th down call right before halftime. Blake Corum, explosive run, touchdown. That can't happen, right? Talia turned it over 2 times in that football game. That can't happen on Saturday. But Penn State is more prepared for this. They played it. I'll mention Michigan. That was a good football team, a well-coached football team, right? Purdue's rolling better than they were week 1. That wasn't their best effort. I wouldn't want to moving forward. And look, I'm not saying Auburn. We talked about Auburn not being a good football team. We know that, but the atmosphere that they had to experience there at Auburn, that's preparing them for Saturday. Penn State is much more ready. They're much more prepared to play in a game like this Saturday at noon than Michigan is, Tom. But look, this is still a good team on both sides of the ball. I think, and let's start defensively, Tom, because I think that's where Penn State is going to have their work cut out for them.
Defensively for Penn State, I look at this game and I see a lot of similarities between J.J. McCarthy and Sean Clifford. Mm-hmm. And I think J.J. has more of the ability to be explosive in the run game and create the big play. But I think it's the thing they are missing with not playing Cade McNamara on a regular basis, is that Cade is a little bit more consistent in the passing game, which is fascinating because when you look at the numbers for McCarthy, 10 total touchdowns, 78% completion percentage. However, he's only attempting roughly 24 passes per game or less. So that signals to me Jim Harbaugh and company understand what to do. And it's what they've been doing for quite some time there with Harbaugh as the head coach. Run the football, play good defense. When you look at J.J. McCarthy, do you think he's really going to be the factor that breaks Penn State's defense, or do you think it's just going to be a steady dose of Corum and company?
Well, he's the guy for them that holds it all together. Right. Look, obviously, when you go into a game, you're playing Michigan. The number one thing is to stop Blake Corum. That's it. Right. If you can do that, you're going to win the football. You stop Blake Corum, you're going to win the football game. It's as simple as that. And I don't think, how you do that. Well, that's Manny Diaz's job, because kid is electric. This kid has experience. He's fast. He's low to the ground. He's shifty. Right. He has such good vision, Tom, and you don't think he's as quick or as fast as he is. But man, when he sees a crease, he's going and he's gone, man. And like we talk about Nick Singleton, not having in the stadium be able to catch him. Corum has that speed as well when he gets outside. But going back to McCarthy, look, he rarely puts the ball in harm's way. And you comparing Clifford and McCarthy, it's a fantastic comparison because they're both now balancing their game because of what they're able to run game. They know they don't have to force it down the field. Here's where Penn State can maybe capitalize. We saw the interception a week ago by McCarthy against. Read the coverage right, middle of the field, wide open. It's just a great defensive play and job positionally by Indiana for the tip pick there. But the time you're going to need to take advantage of the play. If it's two plays, one or two throws that are even close, can't miss those. You have to be dialed in. They have to be in position and in the right position for everything. McCarthy's good. He's smooth. He's calm in the pocket. He's a very patient. Check it down. He'll throw it to the tight ends. He'll take free access throws. He'll lull you to sleep in a way, Tom, and then boom, he'll down the field when he gets the right perfect coverage for the throw he wants to make downfield. And for a young guy, he's doing a fantastic job of it. Right? He's in a really good place right now. And it's a really good position to be in right now, which now we're seeing why they made the transition, because they're just so well-rounded on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, it's just it's high peaks, low valleys at times, and he's been fortunate, to your point, not necessarily turning the ball over. I think these are two teams that virtually mirror images in a lot of ways. Both are in the top 7 in the country defensively in rushing yards allowed per game. Both are in the top 13 in points allowed per game. And then you talk about what Blake Corum's able to do. Both teams are capable of recording about 200 yards rushing per game for Penn State. They just happen to do it between two guys, whereas Blake Corum basically equals the yardage total that we've seen Katron Allen and Nick Singleton amass this season. So if you're Manny Diaz, like, we know he's going to dial up blitzes, you know he's going to try and get turnovers, and I fully expect to see this secondary do what they've been doing all season and leading the country in pass breakups and try and get a few more picks here and there. Is this a game similar to Northwestern? Granted, the elements were a factor there, but where you play everybody within 10 yards of the ball and dare J.J. McCarthy to beat you, or is that too risky?
I think it might be too risky because this kid, he can do it. He can beat you. You know, and it's not just him. Ronnie Bell, Luke Schoonmaker, Roman Wilson, Cornelius Johnson, like, they're all solid players, Tom. So I think it could be one of those games where you see Penn State playing a ton of zone because McCarthy can spread the football around, and any one of those guys can make plays for them. I think that front 7 defensively is going to need to play its best game. Stop the run, stop Corum. This offense, this Michigan offense, they're going to stay on schedule, right? He's going to run a play that has the best chance of succeeding and getting positive yards. They're not going to run a play time, and you're going to sit there, scratch your head thinking, I wonder what they were trying to do there. Or, they don't do that. They don't operate like that. Right. It's all about, this is the best play in this situation, best play versus what we're expecting here. And we're going to take advantage of that. We're not going to take big risks or big chances here offensively because we don't have to. So you mentioned Diaz blitzing, bringing pressure and things like that. I think when they do that, Tom, it's going to be one of those things like, hey, it's 3rd and 4, big play. Michigan offense knows they're getting pressure. J.J. McCarthy knows he's getting dialed up with the pressure. The fans know pressure's coming. Everybody's pressure's coming. It's like, all right, best man's going to win this one. So I think it's going to be obvious when the pressure is coming. But outside of that, I think you're going to see a balanced defensive plan from Penn State, and they're going to have to win up front. Now, Michigan is banged up on the offensive line. So this front 7, this D-line is going to have to dominate.
And it's one thing that Michigan has been very good at this season. Granted, you look at strength of schedule, strength of their competition, and you factor that in. However, Michigan offensively, 45% conversion rate on 3rd down, 80% on 4th down. Now, you look at Penn State on the flip side, the Penn State offense, 33% conversion percentage on 3rd down, 66% on 4th down. Considering we always talk about James Franklin likes to go for it on, 3rd and short or 4th and short between the Penn State 40 and the opponent's like 25, basically. Some of that is the limitations of Jake Pinniger and the kicking game. You understand that. Michigan doesn't necessarily have that problem. The name of their kicker escapes me, but he's got a 52-yarder to his credit this season. If this offensive line struggles, do you see that number of attempts for J.J. McCarthy I talked about? He's averaging about 24 a game. If they have him throwing 30, 35 times a game, does that cost Michigan?
I'm going to find out because they've been so successful in what they do as an offense that he hasn't really had to, win the game for them. So, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out and if Penn State can stop the run. I don't think Michigan and Jim Harbaugh, I don't think they're a team that's just going to abandon the run quickly.
Of course.
I think if they are strong offensively here and there, I think you see them get creative. I think they find a way to keep it close and then try to win it from there. But I mean, it's, to sit here and say if Corum can't run the ball in the first quarter, just pushing the football down the field, I don't think it's going to happen. I think they stick with who they are. It's won them games last year. It's winning them games this year. But if you're Penn State defensively, I mean, this is the most balanced offense you're going to play that the running game could beat you or the pass game could beat you.
Are you a fan of rivalries? Are you a fan of smack talk? Do you like to stand out from the crowd at tailgates? If so, head over to Smack Apparel and check out what their team is geared up for this football season. Their Let There Be White tee is the perfect gear for those famous whiteout games at Beaver Stadium. Or get straight to the point with the worst tee for all the Ohio State haters out there. Smack Apparel makes the gear that'll have everyone asking where you got it. They have the must-have tees for all your teams, including pro football, baseball, basketball. Every fan is covered. Head over to their website, smackapparel.com, and use the promo code PAYDIRT at checkout for 10% off. Again, that's smackapparel.com, promo code PAYDIRT at checkout. Why wear boring when you can wear smack? Are you looking for undeniably good hair and beard care? Then Maestro's Classic is perfect for you. Maestro's has beard washes, beard oils, beard butters, plus hair gels and pomades. It's one brand for every man. Visit maestrosclassic.com. That's MAESTROS classic.com and use our promo code PAYDIRT15, PAYDIRT15 at checkout for 15% off your order. Maestro's Classic, crafting a better you. Yeah, Blake Corum, there will be a steady diet, no doubt about it. Let's talk about the other side of the ball in regards to Penn State. It's something that we have talked about a lot this season, and we were just talking about, Singleton and Allen, the way Penn State has run the ball. It's been really positive. It's been very encouraging. Penn State's averaging about 190 yards rushing per game. And again, you factor in, similar to Michigan, a couple of games here and there where you were able to pad your numbers a little bit. But at the same time, Singleton and Allen have been sensational. Can Michigan handle these two? And not even just these two, but Kevon Lee as well.
I really, really don't. I mean, they've been so good. And again, last week, tough. I'm not making excuses for anybody. I don't care what the conditions are. You can't turn it over. You can't fumble the football. But I think, and being in a game like that, Tom, I think it registered. Now it's like, whoa, hang on a second. Let's take a step back. Let's humble ourselves here a little bit now. We got to really figure out how to understand and learn how to play the running back position here in the Big Ten as the weeks goes on. It for more and more difficult. I don't care what month it is or what day it is. I've always feel like when you go out to Michigan and Ann Arbor to play, it's going to be cold.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, right. And that's something that, the football feels different. The leather on the ball, Tom, gets more slicker. The laces get hard, right? The ball itself gets hard, right? You understand how to carry it, how to throw it. Very fortunate they got out of that Northwestern game in those conditions, but there were a lot of lessons learned, a lot of tough lessons learned in that game. Like this team has experienced a lot throughout the early portion of the season. Again, nothing should surprise them on Saturday, crowd noise, field conditions, anything like that. And here's where I think, let me say this real quick. Is it me or have we not seen many running back screens from Penn State?
Not too many. No, you're right. And
Yeah.
I think we saw a few of them in very early September, but that's not really been Mike Yurcich's game.
I think for some reason I go back to that this week. We haven't seen much of it. Tom, this team is going to be rolling up front defense. Michigan, I'm talking about. They're going to be rolling up front defensively. Do everything you can to slow that pass rush down early. And if it's me, maybe I'll throw a wide receiver screen out there, within my first 5 or something like that. But I'm coming back with a running back screen somewhere in this game. And I just mentioned the third, how good they are offensively on third down. They're just average defensively on middle of the pack in the Big Ten in third down defense. Third down is critical for this Penn State offense. Careful going at DJ Turner. He's a good football player. They have a few good guys there in the secondary, Tom, but I think crossing routes when they play man coverage is going to get them, and deep crossers is going to get them. But I'm not talking about deep crossers where you're hitting a guy, if you're on the left hash, you're not hitting somebody on the opposite hash. So I'm talking about letting somebody, get 5, 12, up to 20 to 22 and across the field, play action or a deep drop where protection holds up. You're in a 6, maybe a 7-man pass pro. Trouble with guys crossing the field as well. I think they can hurt them, Tom. But going back to it, and you started off with it, Katron, Singleton, Kevon, you got to run the football. You have to establish the run this week. You can't, for how good and how talented you are offensively, you can't go 3 and out, give it to this team. 3 and out, give it to this team, right? They'll do a good way of finding momentum. They'll milk the clock if they have to. They'll put drives together. Let J.J. McCarthy get confident, comfortable, and calm. He sees the field really well. You have to pressure that kid. You have to force him to play from behind. And it starts early. You got to score. The first time Penn State has the ball time, you need to see points. And it's not a game where it's like, you got to go down and score immediately, but you got to get at least 3.
To a degree, you got to try and take the crowd out of the game because they will be a factor. A noon game, all the bells and whistles we talked about with Fox and Big Noon Kickoff. So I agree with you on that. One thing I am worried about, and I've talked about it through the season, is that any running back for Penn State has had to get past would-be tacklers at the first and second level regularly through this season. And it wasn't necessarily just against the likes of Purdue, Auburn, and Northwestern. It was in the Central Michigan game. It was in the Ohio U game. And it's like, okay, like you understand overcoming that level of competition. I understand this front 7 for Michigan is a far cry from what we saw last year in regards to the bookend DNs of Ojabo and Hutchinson just making everybody's life miserable. It's not that, but still, this is a very good Michigan defense that will deny you at the line of scrimmage. Is this going to be a wake-up call for Penn State's running game?
That's a good question. I think it's going to be a wake-up call early for this offensive line. Average just isn't going to get it done. I think these guys are going to find early that you're going to have pride in running the football. There's going to have to be some want to there early on to establish the run out of Penn State, Tom. And I think if you're Mike Yurcich, I think the mindset needs to be, listen, we need to put pressure on our own offensive line to the point, Tom, where it's like they're thinking to themselves, we have to run. We have to find a way to. Not one of those things, Tom, where it's like, all right, we ran it 5-6 times, it's not working, so now let's try to toss it down the field. And then as an offensive lineman, you're thinking to yourself, all right, well, we abandoned the run. All right, that's it. I know we'll mix in a few here and there, but we're just going to try to throw the ball this game. You can't do that. You got to put pressure on this offensive line early and let them know the game plan and say, this is it, guys. Figure it out. We need to find a way to attack and run the football and set the tone early in Ann Arbor.
I think Penn State is getting disrespected going into this game. I think it's still a little bit of what Michigan accomplished last year is accredited to their ranking currently, making the college football playoff, and you understand that. But Michigan's getting -7 at home and an over-under of 52, last I saw, according to ESPN.com. I don't see this being a high-scoring game. What do you think?
I can see it being somewhere like a 28-24, 30-21. I can see 30 being enough on Saturday, Tom. You're gonna see a turnover or two. You just are. In a game like this, emotions are high. Everybody's playing fast. Everybody's flying around, Tom. You're gonna see a turnover or two. Special teams. I keep thinking about special teams this week. It's gonna play a huge factor. Somebody's gonna have the chance to change the game on special teams this week.
Ball security jumps to mind off of last week, not the bye week, obviously the Northwestern game, but that's something that you expect the coaching staff to have hammered into the minds of every offensive player, every skill position player, special teams player. Hold on to the ball.
And now Michigan knows that. They're watching the same tape we watched, and again, bad weather for both teams. We talked about that.
Of course,
we discussed that after the show, or after the game on the show. We discussed that, and it's like. But Michigan's watching that tape saying, these guys are going to give it up. One guy wraps up, second guy attacks the ball. They will give it up if you go at it. They're going to be scratching at the ball, rip the ball to the guy's arms. It's going to happen, right? From the first carry through the 35th carry of the game, right? Penn State needs to lock in, dial in, two hands on the football.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. No pun intended. It's just the way that things looked last week. It all of a sudden, opens up as a vulnerability. So I think the same way you were just talking about how Michigan's not going to abandon the run and probably won't abandon the run. That's just what Jim Harbaugh does with Blake Corum. Penn State has got to do the exact same thing, because my concern is what happens typically with Mike Yurcich in the second quarter, where you're maybe trying to score quickly before the half, and then you want to come out firing in the third quarter. So you see games, we've seen a few games this year where Sean Clifford's attempts have gone up in the second and third quarter, and then it kind of gets balanced back down when the game is maybe in hand or you're just trying to lock things up. That's what worries me, and that's the only thing that worries me really about this game from an offensive standpoint for Penn State. When you think about what Sean Clifford has to do for Penn State to win, what is it?
I don't think this is a game, Tom, where he needs to win for them. I really don't. I think this is a game where it'll certainly be a collective effort, where we have to win the football. We have to run it well. I'm not saying Katron needs to go for a buck or Nick Singleton needs to go for a $120, or heck, or Kevon Lee 85 yards. I'm not saying that, but it'll need to be all three of those guys running well. The combination of those three needs to be on. Sean has to throw the ball well on third. He has to take care of the football in the red zone. It's going to be loud in backed up situations. He's got to use his cadence in situations like that. He has to be careful with the football. Parker Washington, Mitchell Tinsley, they have to get the ball early and often in this football game, Tom. Heck, jet sweeps, right? Little shovel pass, something to get the ball in those guys' hands early on and to take advantage again of those tight ends. Because that's the world they're living in right now. Washington, Tinsley, and then the tight ends. So if that's going to be it, then that's fine. But tight ends versus linebackers, tight ends versus safeties, create those matchups, create those situations and those battles for those guys, because they are very good in moments like that. He's got to spread the ball around as well. But if he's uncertain, Tom, check it down. It can't be the Sean Clifford where he makes a big throw and then the next one, it's a misread, doesn't understand the coverage, floats it, or it's a worm burner, right? If he's uncertain in the pocket, if he's losing his feet, and by losing his feet, you know what I'm talking about. He's getting flat-footed, he's drifting back, and he's trying to throw that throw. Can't do it Saturday, right? The second his brain registers to him, oh no, I got to move on, or that's not there. Check it down, find your back, stay on schedule. If I was a quarterback coach there right now, Tom, I'm saying to him, Sean, listen, this is a game where we need to reserve the right to punt. I'm not saying don't take chances. I'm not saying don't play with confidence and don't take risks, right? But this is a game where you have to see everything clearly. And if it's not there, move on. If it's not there, check it down. If it's not there, throw away, and we can move on from that.
This game is obviously critically important to the future of Penn State's season, and we talked about it a little bit at the beginning of this show, is that the stretch they're about to embark on, Michigan, home against Minnesota, at Ohio State, and then the rest of the slate of November is slightly easier, but still, you got to get through this gauntlet here in October. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, coming out of a bye week, and you've experienced this, going into a game of this magnitude, is this a good thing for a James Franklin football team or a bad thing?
It's a good thing they had a bye week when they had it, right? But it can be difficult in a way going into a game like this on the road because I can see them coming out flat. I can see it taking 2-3 drives to really get rolling, right? And by that time, you may be down 3, you may be down 7, heck, you may be down 10. You need to do everything you can to come out flat in a game like this. And right now, Tom, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, as we sit here talking about it, I think if I'm Yursich, those first few plays, those first, drive or two, I think it's simple stuff for me. I really do. It's some of the best runs we've had over the past 5 weeks. It's slip screens. It's quick game. Might dial up a play action pass every now and then, but it's something where I'm able enough and it's something that's safe enough so that these are plays we can run in our sleep. These are some of the best plays we've run all year. Guys execute these plays with confidence. Heck, they don't even have to be on the game plan, and I can call them. These guys are going to go out there and execute those plays well. That's what I think I'm calling early on here to let everybody settle in, get a few catches, get a few positive yards, and then boom, here we go. Let's go play some football, Tom. And Tom, we've talked about this for a few. If it's 10-0, if it's 17-0, if it's 20-0, don't be surprised if 15 gets put in the game.
Mm-hmm. I would fully expect it. And honestly, Sean Clifford is injury prone. We've talked about it a lot. There's a chance you see Drew come into this game in some capacity. Now, I wish the best for Sean. I don't want to see him get hurt, and I agree with you. That's still at this point in time, he's the best chance for Penn State to win games. But I do worry about this rushing attack going up against more credible Big Ten competition for Penn State's rushing attack, that is. And I think the way that Michigan runs the ball, Penn State has not necessarily been stellar against stopping the run against some opponents that, frankly, they should have hammered in regards to the rushing attack. So there's a lot to be proven here. There's a lot to really discover about Penn State in this game. So very quickly, do you think Penn State pulls out the win?
Yes.
I'm a little pessimistic. I'm a little worried still. It's a road game. It's a big house. I'm a little worried. I could see Michigan squeaking this one out in a low scoring game, but
yeah, it's gonna be tight. It'll be tight the whole entire way. I'm not. It's not even gonna be the offense that's gonna win the football game for Penn State. I go back to the great that defense has looked, how much better they've gotten, how deep they are. Offense can lean on that defense and understand what they have.
We'll see what happens. We'll have a recap episode for you guys after the game. Enjoy Penn State versus Michigan. It's this Saturday at noon on Fox, immediately following big noon kickoff. Enjoy the game. Thank you all so much for joining us. We'll be back on ESPN Radio State College on Mondays and Fridays from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern for the remainder of the Penn State football season. If you want to check out the podcast version of this show presented by the Believe Network, this episode and our entire library of shows is available now on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and wherever else you get your podcasts. And of course, let us know what you think of the show on Twitter at ESPN Radio 1037, at McGloin QB11, and at Tom Hannafin. PAYDIRT is presented by Bet Online and by Funk Brewing. Thanks again, everyone, and join us next week for more PAYDIRT.